Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, mauling time is here. That's right. We're talking about Netflix's Tiger King, the Joe Exotic story or something like that, on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, and I'm coming to you once again from either Oklahoma or North Carolina or Florida or someplace where you can have a lot of tigers and people go, oh, well, that's odd. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. But of course, as a special mental health episode, we're going to focus on the characters in dick fingers of Netflix's Tiger King. And as always, there's only one person that I trust, that if I want to build out this private zoo, she's going to help me recruit lots of underage women and felons to do all the work for me. The one, the only, Gena Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gena?
Have you ever wanted to hold a snow leopard? Here you go. I've got one in my pocket right here.
I personally felt very guilty about this, because that sounds fantastic when you divorce it from every other ounce of knowledge that I have. But upon watching it, you can't help but feel like all of this should be illegal. All of it.
And yet somehow it is not yet.
No, it isn't yet. And I don't know how any of these people thought participating in this, outside of the fact that a camera is pointed at them, would help them. And yet I have yet to read about the federales raiding any of these camps and taking out these insane felons who should not be in charge of animals or young people.
Have you actually finished it yet?
Yes, I have.
Okay, because if you recall, at the end of the last episode, they do mention that Doc Antle's zoo was raided in like December, I think, but nothing more has come about that as of yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think at best, a lot of these places are going to get nailed on abusing animals, because there's, but as if that is a lighter sort of crime that people can dismiss, which it is not. But also, I was struck over and over again that they would introduce a new character, and that character would be worse than the last one.
Some of them missing limbs.
Think surely the next person I meet won't be worse than this one. But no. They found another person. And that every single person who does this thing is in fact the same person, just in a different skin suit. Like,
yeah, I would like
criminals who
Go ahead.
They're all criminals. They're all criminals who have cults of personality, who draft people who are in desperate situations, either because of finances, a rocky, violent past, or they're too young to know any better, and they just exploit the living fuck out of them.
Joe Exotic,
all of them.
Our hero, if you want to call it that, apparently would recruit people who were just sitting out front of bus stations and said, like, hey, do you want to come work around, 2,000-pound tigers? Sure thing.
Sure. Why not? Sounds like a great opportunity. Wait a second. There's a truck that comes that unloads expired meat.
You get all the free expired meat you want.
You get first pick of the expired meat that I feed my wild animals. I mean,
yeah, there was a stunning statistic at the end of the series. We're only going to cover the first four, I think.
Fuck it. Let's do the whole thing.
Okay, fine. Where it said there are only 4,000 tigers left in the wild. Yeah. And yet anywhere between 5,000 to 11,000 owned in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
Your neighbor could have a tiger in his house.
And there'd be no problem with it. This is what we conquered this already occupied nation to do, is have dangerous fucking animals because rah spin around the flag. It's just like, what are we doing? Why?
Yeah. This documentary is like a libertarian's wet dream.
It is. And in fact, they have an out and out libertarian who at one point tries to recruit, I guess he successfully recruits Joe Exotic, the Pontiac Firebird given life, Joe Exotic, and just says, you can run for governor. And he does, and he gets 19% of the vote. And he's like, you're going to be the libertarian candidate. And he's like, he doesn't know what a libertarian is.
He also ran for president at one point. And I love that his campaign commercial was I am gay, I am broke as shit.
I have had weird sex. Like, all right. I mean, listen, it's a selling point. I'll give you that.
I've been married to several straight boys.
Oh my God. His menagerie there is awe-inspiring.
It varies wildly between being funny and disturbing.
Yes.
Because he's obviously none of these young men that he is quote unquote married to, although you can't marry more than one person. That's against the law. You find out that none of them are actually gay. That they've been sleeping around, with the female staff at this zoo. And yet he's taking like all these like glamour shots of them together, and then they have like a plural wedding. Yeah. Where I love, my favorite thing is the fake New York Post mock-up cover celebrating their wedding. Yeah, he makes them get these absolutely insane tattoos, which I was like, there's no going back after you see John, who ends up being very sympathetic. Yes. I mean, the first thing that you notice about John is that he's got some dental issues, which have been resolved. So bless John. For whatever reason, John spends much of his interview being without a shirt on. Yeah. I just like
it seems to be his natural state. Yeah,
just like for some reason, Safi, the employee that lost her arm, is just interviewed in front of a pile of garbage. I'm not saying that the documentarians went out of their way to make these people look worse than they actually are, but I'm not saying that either. Yeah. But anyway, so at one point, John has many tattoos, none of them good. But the real standout is a tattoo he has over his pubic line that says "privately owned by Joe Exotic." And let me tell you, when he gets that covered at the end of the series, granted by an equally tacky tattoo, but one that's less unsettling, I cheered, I pumped my fist.
It is a moment of catharsis. It feels like, okay, he's moved on in some way, shape, or form, as if, but it just feels like all of them are just lost, just absolutely lost. And the only thing they can grab onto is, I can keep these wild tigers alive in Oklahoma. And you're like, why? Why is this the thing you need to do? Why is this the thing that anyone needs to do? And it turns out a lot of people really need to do it.
Oh, I totally buy that there's a certain sort of like very powerful energy to being able to get that close to a tiger. I mean, I've never like, I don't know if you ever actually held a tiger cub or anything like that. I have not. No. But I can see where that would be very powerful to somebody. Yes. And then in a lot of cases, I almost felt a little bad because they raised a lot of these tigers from cubs to full-grown cats, and you bond with them like you bond with any other animal.
Yes, and I think there's like a purity of intention there, but it very quickly becomes bogged down in. They call themselves zoos, but what it ends up being every single time is a circus.
It's a circus, and it's also we're selling. Who knew that you could buy a tiger cub for $2,000?
$2,000. That's crazy to me. That it's that low.
You can buy a cub for $2,000. It'll cost you $30,000 a month to feed it, but you could get one for $2,000.
Yeah. Yes. I don't like who is propping up this marketplace of easy to get giant tigers.
Clearly, the answer we see is drug dealers and people that might have murdered their husbands.
Yes. Joe Exotic obviously is the thing that draws you in. But the person that I found compelling over the long haul of it really was Carol Baskin.
Yeah.
Because she is one of those people who can't help but tell on herself throughout the entirety of this.
She remains the quote unquote good guy in this. And yet she also definitely murdered her husband.
She definitely murdered her husband. She's also exploiting her workforce and probably not treating those cats very well. Like, I can't imagine that PETA is super into supporting what she's doing either. Not that PETA is a fantastic organization. It feels like every time you're introduced to something bad, worse is just around the corner straightening its, jean jacket. I almost said tie, but let's be fucking serious.
Their fringe suede jacket.
Oh my God. Or their fringe suede vest. Or wearing a bandana underneath an Oakley cap. It's just everywhere you look. When you think, hey, the person I relate most to in all 7 episodes of this is the guy who may or may not have been the inspiration for Scarface, that is a cast of fucking characters. Wow. Like, the guy who's got it most together is the guy who should have gone away for 120 years and didn't. And now...
Go ahead.
No, he's like owns the zoo, and at one point they're like, "You're never gonna get into that zoo," and the next thing they do, they let him into the zoo with the cameras. Oh my God!
Yeah, no, it's you learn a lot of interesting things about people in this. You learn that meth is very, very bad, and you should definitely never use it. Because that is
teeth. That is not something I knew. Maybe that's something they gave away on Breaking Bad, but I never.
Oh no, that's they call meth mouth. It makes your teeth fall out. He basically, Joe Exotic basically hung on to his very young husbands mostly by keeping them high much of the time.
Yeah.
Which is gross and sad.
Yes.
You also learn that it does not take very much to get women to agree to be in a plural relationship.
Oh my God.
At least 2 different characters in this movie, 2 not terribly attractive and kind of creepy men are both bragging about how they have this like harem of women and they're all very, all you have to do is show them a tiger and they're yours and at the end of the series, one of them, his wife's about to give birth, and he's talking about how he wants to hire a sexy nanny, and it's just like, and he's just laughing like, you know how it is, guys, and it's just like, how are people, how do you? It's sort of like, when you find out that like, there's a serial killer and they have a partner, and it's like, how do you manage to convince people of this? Like, how do you manage to convince someone, come work for my zoo? You could be one of my 4 or 5 girlfriends. I'm gonna change your name, but it's okay.
Yeah, because you get a house out of the deal.
Not only that, these people's parents are coming to work for the zoo.
Yeah.
Poor Travis, who in probably the most upsetting scene in the whole thing, his mother is working there, And she's got to know that's not a healthy relationship for him to be in.
Yeah, no, it's really disturbing.
And the gal that goes to work for Doc Antle, she's like, "Oh, my mom drove me down here." It's like, what? your mom drove you to the Tiger Harem?
Yeah, because the website looked great.
This is a legitimate operation.
No, it has to be. It has a website. How can it be bad? I mean, that's another thing. It's like no one hides what a terrible person they are.
No.
And
one guy's bragging about how he would smuggle in tiger cubs in a suitcase.
Oh God, just the grossest shit. And you're like, this guy looks like bad news.
He looks like he kept reminding me of Tobin Bell. He looked like Tobin Bell.
Yes.
And I mean, Tobin Bell might be in real life might be a little bit too old to play him. But I was dreamcasting this thing
spiritually
left and right. But he definitely reminded me of Tobin Bell.
A fresh on the scene Tobin Bell.
Right.
Made perfect sense for this. Yeah, because he's got the same sort of triangle face.
Right. Kind of the little beady eyes and all. You know, I mean, not to be mean to Tobin Bell, but there's a reason why he plays bad guys a lot. He just kind of has that look.
Right. No one has accused Tobin Bell himself of being a bad guy. We're talking about a screen presence type.
Right. I'm sure he's a perfectly nice guy in real life, but he plays very, very effective villains.
Yes, you can believe it for one reason or the other. And
these people are villains.
Yes.
And your head is spinning as I don't know which one of these people I'm supposed to hope things work out for.
You kind of hope there's some sort of cataclysmic thing at the end, cat, of course, being the pun I'm going for, that takes them all down. And it's somewhat disappointing that they don't all go down. There's just the threat that they might go all down. But there are obvious people who should be convicted of crimes, who just are left, jet skiing. You're like, how the fuck does this work? How do you still have a job? How are you still employed? How is this zoo still operating? How does this fucking work? Why do I don't know. Why do good things happen to terrible people? I suppose is what I'm left with at the end of it. After I'm done laughing at how insane it all is.
All you can do is laugh.
To keep from crying, basically.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like the episode, if you haven't watched it yet, this is a spoiler. Travis, one of Joe Exotic's husbands, accidentally, I'm going to say it probably was not an accident, shoots himself. You don't see it, but you see the reaction of someone who saw him. And that guy, despite being libertarian, is pretty sympathetic. He seems completely devastated by that. As anyone would be.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's almost comical the way his reaction is. You think it's like a freeze frame because he's just sitting there with almost this like Home Alone face where he's got like, and it's like, oh, he's just like in complete shock. And it's the same episode where we talk about Joe Exotic's political campaign and it's absurd. And then it's literally 2 months later, he marries someone else.
Another person who exactly fits into the mold.
Another 19-year-old straight boy.
Yeah. Who is just enraptured with what he's doing. The whole thing is just, you keep smacking your own face. You can't believe that anyone falls into it. And yet, by osmosis and extension, we all are. Because Becky and I are not one to rampage through something. Even shows we like, it takes us a while to get through. We killed this in a weekend. And it's not because we're staying at home. We work from home anyways. It's not because we're not busy. We happen to be busy. It's just
you have to see what happens next. You have to see what happens next. I mean, I admittedly did spoil myself a little bit. Like I knew what happened. I knew going in what happened to Travis. I just didn't know when it was going to happen.
I think we moved through too fast to actually research it. We just allowed it to take over our lives for a Saturday afternoon.
I mean, the best part is that we haven't really spoken too much specifically about Joe Exotic, who is kind of the. I mean, you can't really call him the protagonist. I guess you can call him the protagonist. Protagonists aren't always heroes, but he was an inveterate recorder of himself, and amazingly, his YouTube channel is still up and active. I mean, obviously he's not posting anything to it because he's in jail now. But you can watch, like, they show a lot of clips from these country music videos he makes, in which, shockingly, he doesn't do his own singing. I mean, when you hear his speaking voice, you know that rich country tenor he's singing is not his actual voice. I don't know what poor soul he paid off to not tell anybody, oh, hey, that's my singing voice, but...
Yeah, apparently it's this twosome out of Washington State that wrote and sang all of the stuff, and, like, I think he's providing some backgrounds or whatnot. But when he sings along with it at one point during a funeral, you're like, it becomes very clear this is not the same guy who is recording it. But just moments earlier, he's like, sometimes I just drive around and listen to myself sing. He's that delusional.
Yeah.
That if it comes within his realm, his magical thinking allows him to just go along with it. It's like, this is me singing. These are my songs. These are my tigers. I'm doing this all for my dead brother. And you're like, no. You're crazy pants, and everyone else is buying into it. Just like I'm buying into it by continuing to watch. I'm not that much smarter, I suppose, is what it's come down to.
I mean, I definitely didn't know that up to 11,000 tigers are just living in people's houses in the United States. Yeah. I mean, there was a pretty famous case here some years ago. I believe it was before I lived here, but where somebody was keeping a tiger in an apartment.
Oh no.
And I don't know how that works. I don't know how people keep large dogs in a New York apartment, but a lot of times, I mean, these are not like good people. These tend to be like drug dealers and just generally disreputable people who, show their personal worth by the fact they have a tiger. Like I said, everybody thinks they're Al Pacino and Scarface.
Yes, everyone does. It's really wild how many people believe themselves to be this king of the jungle, and they create their own jungle and
just looking down on everybody else who does the exact same thing.
Yes,
like every Joe says about Doc Antle, it's like, he's got a cult going on over there, and oh my god, this voice that he speaks in, I mean, it's pure. Christopher Guest couldn't come up with a better voice for this character.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point Christopher Guest is seeing this happen and just throwing a half completed outline right into the shredder, because this is everything that he is going for, just with real people. It's so mind-numbingly crazy. You just can't believe it's gonna get weirder, and then it instantly gets weirder every step of the way. I think it loses a little bit of steam around episode 6 or 7.
It does. They could have condensed. Because they're trying to drag it out. It's like, well, which of these people are going to betray him? And it turns out all of them.
Yeah, everyone.
Because none of these people care about each other. Not, and they shouldn't. They're bad people. None of these people should care about each other.
No, it's crazy that they got involved in the care industry, even if it's care of giant jungle cats who have no business being in the United States. How they reached this level is mystifying to me. Joe is so compelling, so just, you can't, he's a very American character in that he's created something out of nothing, and that something he's created has no business being. It's just, It should be smoke. And for
Right,
some
but
reason,
he has the
it's
support.
real.
He has the support of a fair amount of people who thinks that Americans should be able to do whatever they want.
Yes.
Yeah, whether that is owning exotic animals or marrying underage people or marrying more than one underage person, you should be able to do whatever you want.
And he pretty much does without repercussion up until the very end. I mean, he's a person who is so openly calling for the death of another human being that you would think that at some point he would be at least warned, stop doing this. And he doesn't. And it all comes back to bite him in the ass. And yet the person whose death he's calling for, pretty, allegedly, totally killed her fucking husband. And has gotten away with it scot fucking free.
Oh, yeah. She's no hero either. She just happens to be the least awful out of a lot of awful people.
I think she's the most palatably awful person because, well, actually, let me rewind that. The most palatably awful person is the guy they base Scarface off of.
Yeah,
because he is a private zoo. And he just this is what I do. But he's also breeding all of these animals for profit. So, but he doesn't require a whole bunch of people. He's like, I'll only do what I can do with me and my wife. And I don't involve anyone else. Whereas all these other people recruit the most vulnerable in society and exploit the living fuck out of them. Carol Baskin is just a step above that on the horrific scale because she is not paying any of her volunteers. Her conditions are just as bad, if not worse, than anyone else's.
I mean, the best you could say is at least she's probably not trying to sleep with her employees.
And that includes Howard. At one point, because Howard is kept. I have a feeling.
Howard is definitely her slave.
Yes, he seems like a very rational human being, but almost built for the specific purpose of business. He's Howard the business guy. At one point, they're on the couch sitting next to one another, and there's meant to be this triumphant moment between the two of them, and she reaches over and pats his fist and doesn't touch him again for nearly 3 episodes. Oh my God. Wow. At one point, she is rebutting the idea that Joe Exotic was set up to be eaten by his own tigers. Joe says, someone put perfume on my boot and I almost got bitten by a tiger. And she's like, if you really wanted a person to be eaten by a tiger, you'd cover them in sardine oil or something. And so, I'm surprised the lawyer didn't just leap out from behind a bush and tackle her to the ground. It's at no point do you sound like a person who hasn't killed her husband by dousing his socks in sardine oil.
Now, my favorite one was when she did some sort of like how to get rich video. And she's like, you could earn the money or you could get rich accidentally. And she literally does the little side eye thing. Wow.
She does a long wink a la Arrested Development where the eye just closes and never opens back up again. And you're like, something shifty about that. You're damn right. That's shifty as fuck. She is guilty as hell. And she's bad at hiding it. And the only thing keeping her afloat is that her crime was so incompetently investigated and no one thought to think, let's collect that tiger poop, that we're never going to know. And Joe's like, she did it right. I'll give her this. She killed that husband the right way. Why am I trapped with all of these terrible, terrible people?
And it's even worse because they're terrible people who think that they're good people.
Yes.
Which is the worst combination. It's No, let me correct that. They are people who think that they are, on a crusade, that they're heroes for what they do, and they're not. And they're all stupid people who think that they're very smart.
Yes. Well, it's worked up until now. So everything that happens is proof that what they've done is just bored out. Like, I must be a genius because I'm continuing to recruit all these underage women and then make them into my harem. And I sell all these baby tigers all over the world. So, daddy's got to be doing something right. And you're like, no, you just, for whatever reason, haven't fucked up enough to get caught. But I just hope they all are, but that they probably won't be.
Right. I mean, I checked I looked online. The zoo is still open.
Yes.
With limited hours because of coronavirus, but it's still open.
Well, that's the thing that most people do not understand about this virus is that it only operates within certain parameters of the day. It takes a nap like we all do. It must sleep. Oh, Jesus Christ. If this doesn't turn into fucking Captain Trips. I mean, the most magical thing about that whole stand thing is that flu spreads in like 3 weeks. And it's just like, it's over.
And it's like a 99% fatality rate.
Yeah, it just takes out everybody except for one deaf guy and this doofus who keeps spelling out moon. And here it's just like, it's the opposite of that. But people, you just instantly see how the failure of imagination fails us all. People do not get it. And I understand why they don't get it. It's hard to get, but holy fuck do people not get it.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely not.
Oh my God. This poor woman who loses her arm in episode
She's
2.
very chill about it.
She is. I mean, it's like it's another. She says to a camera crew, "It's just another day," and I've never heard a sadder statement in my entire life.
She went back to work after like a week.
Yeah. I'm glad that she's so adaptive. I'm glad that it did not destroy her life because I really don't want her life destroyed. But on the other end of it, like Joe says, "Oh, this is going to ruin me," and it doesn't. And I kind of wish it did.
I guess she didn't sue him or anything, or I don't know. I mean, he would have gotten a fine or something from, I don't know, OSHA. Is that how that works?
Yes. But the idea is that she stuck her arm into the cage, so therefore somehow this is her fault, but she probably shouldn't have been working feeding tigers that way to begin with.
No.
And, oh my God, this poor girl.
This is why you don't have volunteers working at your big cat reserve.
Oh, she's being paid in expired meat.
And like $100 a week, I think.
Yes, $100 a week. Which they kind of grouse at, but not really. It's like, well, should I ever expect anything more? And that's another, like, beneath the belly laughs, and this series provides a great many of them. There are tremendous, just dour sob stories.
Oh yeah, everybody is like an ex-addict, or they had a hard life, or they have a criminal record, and it kind of shines a light on how extremely reluctant we are as a country to give second chances to people who have started out on a rough path. Yeah. So they have no choice but to take a job under questionable safety circumstances for less than minimum wage.
And it's just like this king of shit mountain thing where whoever becomes the king of Shit Mountain makes everyone else do all the shit. And they very rarely get touched by it. And once you get knocked down that peg, all it takes is Jeff Lowe coming in to take things over. And that's it for Joe Exotic. He's in the exact same place that he put everyone else in, which is danger. Because Jeff Lowe's first priority from that moment on is to fuck him over and take over that zoo and try to move it behind the casino, which he never does because he doesn't have any fucking money.
No, yeah, everybody's misrepresenting themselves. Yeah, everybody's claiming they have more money than they actually do.
How does that James Garretson guy make money? I don't understand his store. Which
I thought he was like a strip club owner or something.
He was. It's a past tense thing. Whenever they visit him, he's in that sort of distaff dollar store situation without a sign. And he's just in there alone. It really feels like a front for someone else's money that he doesn't quite ever gain from. In particular, beyond his jet ski, which we see him at the end.
I do like his Dutch boy haircut, though. There's a lot of incredibly bad hair in this movie.
It is a cavalcade of problematic hair.
It's problematic hair, bad piercings, worse tattoos, a lot of acid wash, even though it's 2019.
Some safari vests that have never been on safari.
A lot of sequin shirts.
Yes. Oh, and you feel like at one point I feel like, well, obviously this is not a life I want to be a part of. These are not people that I would normally associate with. Am I simply laughing at those who are less fortunate than I am? But any of the people that it's legitimately asking you to go, oh my God, look at this person, honestly has put themselves in a position of power. And while that power is fleeting and should be instantly taken away from all of them, at the very least, I'm very rarely asked to laugh at Carol's volunteers or the people who are working for Joe Exotic or the
No, they're pitiful. Like the one guy is like clearly drunk in one scene.
Yes.
Like just falling all over his bed and all, and it's just like
all he wanted to do was take care of those tigers. That was his whole mission. Was just like keep these tigers alive. And then when it fails, his life is worthless. And you're like, "Oh, no. No, you shouldn't have never been in that position, and now it's all your worldview and everything about you has been yanked out from underneath you." It just is insanely tragic.
Yeah, it is. When Joe makes it so much about himself. I mean, another oh my God, I can't believe I'm watching this moment is for Travis's funeral. Where Joe starts talking about how he stuck his balls in people's faces. And I was like, what in God's name? And everybody's like laughing, like, yeah, he sure did that. It's like... And of course he had to sing an original composition about his, one of the loves of his life. And then he got married to someone else 2 months later.
Oh my God. It's just so very, very tragic. The husband number one, when he learns that Joe is under federal examination.
Oh, he's like, what?
What? The guy I was supposedly sleeping with but really just smoking meth while things happened around me? That guy?
That would occasionally take glamour shots with?
Oh, no. One person we haven't discussed quite yet, and I think is the person who's the most with it intellectually, therefore someone who carries a lot of guilt around with him, is Rick Kirkman, the guy who I guess he used to work for Hard Copy and
the guy who was
shows
filming
like
his cameraman. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He comes out of it, not looking quite as terrible as everybody else does.
I think only because because all the exploitation he was working towards is undercut by someone burning it all up.
Right.
Oh my God. Wow. Now, do you believe that Joe had someone burn that thing to the ground, or do you think that Kirkman
No, of course it was Joe. Of course it was Joe.
Because it certainly walks like Joe.
Yeah, no, of course it was Joe.
He seems to have picked up one of Kirkman's hats, put it on top of him, put his hair into a bun, and tried to do some sort of impression walking away from it. But it really does seem like Joe... They never flashed to like any evidence of this man who recorded everything he ever did. There's no video evidence of him being elsewhere for this magical funeral that he was going to. It's like, that's and yet he skates on that.
Yeah, but then he says, "Oh well, Kirkman did it," but then nobody does anything with it.
Yeah, it goes nowhere. It's almost like, well, that's just what happens. It's Oklahoma. Like, forget about it, Jake. It's Chinatown in Oklahoma.
It's like, that's what happens around here. Sometimes shit just burns down.
Yeah. Sometimes gators get boiled alive in their own tanks. That's, oh my God, it's so gross. Every part of it is so terribly gross, and yet just amazingly compelling.
It is, yeah. It's like, I hope things worked out for some of these people.
I hope those underneath are able to get out from underneath these people, but I truly wish the worst for people like Doc Antle.
Oh, like, yeah, totally. Yeah,
that's a guy who could burn in hell.
Complete scumbag.
Just the fucking worst. I don't quite understand how everyone involved in this is at their deepest, darkest core the same person.
Yeah, but they also think that they're better than everybody else.
It's wild, man. It is fucking wild. Carol Baskin, at a certain point, is informed that Joe Exotic is looking to kill her, but she continues to ride the same bike path, and then says to the camera, "There are times in which I wish he would kill me, because then it would progress the movement that much farther forward."
That's something a reasonable person would say.
Yes, totally, because it's not about her; it's about the tigers, of course. But it's so entirely about her. And then this is not an observation I know about, but just I happened to be lucky enough to see the meme, in which I guess the street that she was walking down alone, Nebraska Street in Tampa, apparently is a hotbed of prostitution.
Great.
So her ability to find this guy who 4 years later will become her husband that she kills for his money this was not an innocent meeting in any way, shape, or form.
Well, especially since she gives some bizarre explanation where he keeps trying to pick her up. She says no. He drives away. He drives back. And then he gives her a gun and says, "Point the gun at me so I won't hurt you." And thus a romance for the ages is born.
Because that's how it all. That is a wonderful meet cute. The hold this gun on me because I just gotta talk. And then his lawyer, the husband that she kills, allegedly, his lawyer was like, "You know what? I know he's dead because he probably got thrown out of an airplane." You're like, what? knowledge.
I like his big chair and his Wonder Bread tie.
Every background in this entire show, if we were to do the full breakdown of it, we wouldn't end until 2026. It's just one mound of insanity after another. Just from flower crowns to one guy who's Carol's ex-husband's business manager who has a gold baby and a safe in the shot. Like, nothing about this tells me you earn money legitimately.
One guy is he for some reason interviewed taking a bath. He's wearing shorts for some reason.
Yeah, Becky said, how much convincing do you think it took for the director to say, hey, take a bath and continue this interview? I'm like, no, I think they just kept the camera rolling. He was going to take that half-clothed bath regardless. I'm trying to find that wonderful individual's name. I'm scrolling through all of these people. That's not Tim Stark. He's another grosso. Oh, Alan Glover. He's the one who takes $3,000 of Joe Exotic's money to go kill Carol Baskin and just decides to get high on cocaine and go to strip clubs. And then after the fact, he's like, I guess I didn't do it. That's not a denial. How are you not in jail? How are you not in jail?
Yeah, he says, apparently I chickened out. And it's like, no.
What do you mean, apparently?
You either you did or you didn't.
It's like completely disassociative from him. Like, rumor has it on the street, I didn't kill that woman. Oh, wait a second. A, she's still alive, and B, you were around for this. You're that person. Stop talking about it like you're another guy with a teardrop tattoo. Which is something I noticed finally, because I think there is a lot of manipulation to how this is edited together. Like all documentaries.
Oh, sure. Like nobody is happy with how they in reading like follow-up articles, nobody's happy with how they came.
Nor should they be.
No.
I'm glad they're not happy. That brings me joy. They should all be mad.
I think that for whatever reason, Carol didn't think an entire episode would be devoted to her killing her husband.
And yet she has been talking about it on television for decades now. So she had to know it would come up. She seems very prepared to rebut it with her own magical thinking. I just don't think she thought they could present it in a way that made a compelling case that she totally fucking killed her husband. Yeah. I think she like, as you proposed earlier, she thinks she's too smart for all of this.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Everybody in this thinks that they're one step ahead of everybody else.
Oh my God. Any last thoughts for this emergency Tiger King recap?
I mean, things are bad right now, and if you need to be just kind of pulled out of worrying about news and whatever idiocy Trump is saying, or frantically checking your feet, your forehead every half hour or so, it works well. It's so like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is happening. I can't say I enjoyed it, but it was fascinating. And yes, it's fascinating in a I can't believe these people have gotten away with this for this long. And I cannot believe that there are up to 11,000 tigers just living in people's houses. Just living in people's houses. like imagine, just can you imagine just someone in your neighborhood has a tiger?
Yeah. I mean, that's the crazy thing is, it's the gamble people put themselves into.
If they don't own tigers, they own fucking chimpanzees. And we don't need to recall that the horrible story a couple of years ago about the woman literally getting her face ripped off by a chimpanzee. Because you know why? They're not pets.
Yeah.
They are, is it like 4 times stronger or 8 times stronger than men?
far stronger,
They
strong
can,
enough to start ripping people's
they can
faces off.
fuck you up. And you've got people putting them in diapers and putting baby bonnets on them. Like, cute, look at the little monkey. You know, like if I went to someone's house and they came out, oh, here's my chimpanzee, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I'm out.
I don't want to meet your chimpanzee. I do not want to meet your tiger.
It's just
because I am delicious and they're going to try to eat me.
Well, that's very presumptive. I mean, I believe you are delicious, Gena. But deep down, I know this to be true. But, you know, we need to have some level of humility. I don't believe I'm that delicious. I still think a chimpanzee would want to rip my face off because I've had interactions with horses, and horses are like, fuck, no. This one,
Yeah, and horses are, you know, domesticated. They're not like chimpanzees, but, you know, horses, if they don't like your face, they're going to start, like, kicking at you, and because that's what animals do. You know, if you want to keep an animal as a pet, get a fucking cat. Like a little cat, like a house cat. Not a literal tiger.
No one needs to own a tiger. It's just
it's a power move. It's you know, I have the money to own a tiger. Except none of these people have money. You know, either because they are misrepresenting themselves, or because they are spending all the money in feeding these fucking things.
And that's where I came down to, like, this. That's where the fantasy of this started butting very aggressively up against our new reality. Is that the flimsy layer of fantasy of how the tiger business works is very analogous to the flimsy layer of how our American business works.
Right.
And all it takes is 4 weeks to just, it all crumbles to dust. And that should raise people's alarm bells. It honestly should.
It shouldn't be easy to go buy a tiger.
No. It should not be easy to own anything that can kill as many people as a tiger can, or let's say a gun can. Because while a car can be dangerous, it's actually built with safety features to prevent it from happening. You have to be responsible to drive it around, but there are so many hoops that you need to go through in order to do that. And yet there are no hoops for any of these other infinitely more dangerous things.
I mean, how many human beings do you think have been fed to Joe's tigers?
More than we're aware of. Like, I'm very surprised that human remains. Well, his tell is that when he's talking about Carol Baskin murdering her husband, that a tiger's stomach is so acidic that when it eats a whole turkey, no bones come out the other end. It's just able to absorb all of it. And you're like, well, you seem to know a lot about that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's all turkey based.
No.
So yes, I think Doc Antle's definitely up to his eyeballs in it. Definitely, you know, would be Scarface in Florida is up to it. And Carol has one tiger who ate well once. We know that much.
I mean, you know, when you gotta go, getting eaten by a tiger is it's pretty great.
I mean, yeah, I guess. It's as long as they start with the head and work their way down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to start with my foot. That could be pretty awful, but
yeah. I don't want that Survivor type style thing where you're being eaten slowly to live. It's not okay. That's, you know, that whole like that crazy monster in the ground in Star Wars that swallows up Boba Fett.
Yeah, the Sarlacc.
Yeah. That's fucking nightmare fuel.
Yes.
Like, if you don't think I had multiple conversations about that with Oliver, guess again, because he had questions for days about being swallowed by a giant desert mouth where you're digested for 100 years.
That sounds terrible.
It does. It doesn't sound fun. I'll tell you that right fucking now. And that guy had a fucking jetpack on his back. And he's like, can't get out of this. I think. I don't know. Jetpacks. So that's it for our emergency. We didn't want to leave people, on their own. In times like this, sometimes hearing a voice, even if they're goofing off, you kind of need it. And so we get it. We're going to try to do these if we can. They might be super short. They might be as long as this. I'm not particularly sure what exactly they will be, but we're going to try. We're going to honestly try to keep up with you, even though we are not a weekly show. We're going to try.
We are playing things extremely by ear, like the rest of the world is now. But we will put out plenty of capital C content for you.
Yeah, and the other thing is, a lot of our episodes were recorded in advance of all of this happening. So if we seem somewhat disassociated with it, it's only because of how far in advance a lot of this stuff was recorded. This is happening the week it's being released. So
yeah, we want you to know that this fucking sucks, and we acknowledge it.
So yeah, that just about does it for us. But we'll be back next week to talk more about Freddy versus Jason. Our guest will be Chelsea Stardust. She's the director of Satanic Panic, and it's a really fun episode. And we talk about Freddy and Jason and their post-corn rave massacres.
They don't own any tigers. That makes them both better people than Joe Exotic and Doc Antle.
By just this much. And so that just about does it. Until next week, for myself and for Gena. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Don't own tigers.
Do not. And don't take meth.